Renfrew's Descent, When Gambling and Gooning Collide. Hey Reddit, this is going to be one of the hardest things I've ever written, but I need to talk about it. My name's Renfrew and I'm 32. I've got a problem, a big problem. I've been battling two addictions for years now, gambling and gooning, and I'm starting to realize they've crossed paths in ways that are only making everything worse. Let me take you back a few years. I didn't always have these issues. I grew up with a decent family, had a good group of friends, and honestly, life was pretty normal for a while. But somewhere along the line, I got sucked into gambling. It started innocently enough, placing a few bets on sports games just for fun, but before I knew it, I was addicted. It wasn't about the money at first, it was the rush, the thrill of that high-stakes moment when everything was on the line, when the world felt like it was just me and that game or that card or that spin of the wheel. The money loss was steep, but it didn't matter. I told myself I'd win it back. That was my mantra. I convinced myself I was just one win away from being back in control. But then, something else started creeping in. I stumbled across the world of gooning. For those who don't know, gooning is this odd state of mental focus and obsession, usually around certain indulgences that make you lose yourself for hours, if not days. It's hard to explain to someone who's never experienced it, but once I found it, I couldn't stop. I'd get into these trances, zoning out for hours in this heightened state, forgetting about time, about life. I'd get lost in the act of it, and it'd feed into that addictive, compulsive feeling. It felt like a quick fix for when I was too high or too low. It was like a side door to an escape that felt better than anything else I was doing. At first, I kept these things separate. I'd gamble in one place, goon in another. But slowly, the lines began to blur. I'd gamble for hours, racking up losses, my mind running on overdrive. And then, after I'd lost big, I'd turn to gooning to numb the pain. One would feed into the other, spiraling further and further. I'd stay up all night, gambling and gooning in an endless loop, feeling this weird blend of despair and euphoria at the same time. The worst part? I didn't even realize how bad it had gotten until it was too late. It was no longer just a coping mechanism. It was all I knew. I'd gamble away money I didn't have, thinking I could win it back. But then the gooning would take over, and I'd lose hours, days, weeks of my life, just chasing this empty high. I've missed work, stopped answering calls from family, and destroyed relationships. My mind is constantly in overdrive, feeling stuck in a rut I can't get out of. The gambling addiction feeds the need to goon for longer stretches, and the gooning somehow makes the gambling worse, since I'm mentally exhausted, but keep thinking I can chase one more win, one more high. It's like I've built my own personal hell, and I can't get out. I've tried reaching out for help before, but I always ended up making excuses. I can't seem to admit to myself how deep I've gone into this pit. Every time I think about turning my life around, the urge to gamble or goon comes rushing back like a tidal wave. The shame, the isolation, the rush of the highs. I can't break free. Here's where I need you, Reddit. I don't want this to be my life. I don't want this cycle anymore. I'm trapped in this feedback loop where one addiction is fueling the other, and I'm scared I'll never find a way out. Has anyone been through something like this? How did you pull yourself out? I'm at the edge here. I'm terrified of where this is going, but I don't know what to do anymore. Please, if anyone has some insight, I need it. This is the worst it's ever been.